Okay, okay, here we go. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our next painting webinar. We're so excited. So a couple of things. Jen is not co-hosting with me today because she is out of town. So it's going to be solo and it's not going to feel the same, but yeah, so she is on her way to have fun with some friends. But I'm recording this and I'll do my best to sort of like add some notes later. And I'm going to start presenting the assignment. I just wanted to mentioned today's date. Today is March 4th, 2022, and it's Friday, just in case someone is watching this from the future. And we're painting images of our parents. And I was very specific when I was presenting, or I tried to be very specific when I was presenting the inspiration for the assignment, that there's a difference between parental figure and what we associate with the definition of parents. So first things first, you decide which image you're going to use, and of whoever you think fills in the shoes of that parental figure, because as I was mentioning, there are so many possibilities of that figure being one specific person or another. So please respect your own feelings about this and make sure that you choose a parental figure that represents all the things that you feel you belong to. So whether it's one person or two people or even a sibling. So I'm just gonna close this right now and I'm gonna leave the chat open, the chat window open. And I'm going to go ahead and show you the space. So I went to visit my parents this past December after more than 2 years. And I took a picture of this, of them. And that's the image that I'm going to use. So it's a very recent photograph. I should be lucky to say that my parents are still alive, so I know that we all have different experiences with that, but you know, we're using an image. Oh my gosh, we're using an image that represents the figure, the parental figure. So there were a couple of things that I was considering when I printed this image. One of them was composition. So I was looking at this, I thought of my format. I'm using 12 by 16. I'm going to use horizontal orientation. It's a rectangular. So think of your format first, what you're using, because there's going to be some work that we will have to do retrofitting the image to our format. And I think that's going to be the first challenge, because we always, or I imagine that we tend to think of how alike my portrait is going to be to the photograph, but that's not even at the beginning panoply of challenges that we have to face. Retrofitting that image is our main challenge right now. So I looked at the photograph that I took with my cell phone, and I noticed that, you know, I created something really weird with the composition, in which the figures are much lower. They're not balanced or centered. I don't know what I was doing, but they're certainly not a balanced composition. And then I decided, or I started reflecting, do I want to crop this in a way that makes them perfectly balanced? Or do I want to capture this off-frame effect on the image? I was thinking, you know, I have a hand here, so that's going to show expression. It's a little bit like off-center. I have a lot of space here. Should I just trim it? And then I decided to make things a little bit easier by keeping the same composition as I have right here, with this odd off-frame, not balanced or not well-cropped arrangement. So think of or look at the image that you're using and decide how are you going to approach it? Because some of the portraits that we have seen, they have close-ups of the face. Some of them, they pull back a little bit. So we have an opportunity here to decide how we want to rearrange the point of view, and also how important it is to feature certain things. Make or pause, don't grab anything yet, pause and reflect on what's important to feature on your translation. So in my case, after reflecting on that, I decided that I'm just going to keep things the way they are. So in fact, because there's a little bit of difference between the format and the size, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with one side and then expand the drawing as I go, leaving much more space on this area. So I do. It's very convenient if you have to keep like a yardstick. I think I'm just gonna even make it much more odd and contemporary by aligning the bottom left of my image with the bottom left of the format. I think that's good. Oops. So we're going to take 2 weeks, or we're going to unfold or develop this within the next 2 weeks. And that means that I'm perfectly aware that this will not be the only time that I'm going to work on this. In fact, we were talking a few weeks ago that ever since we started with our bi-weekly collections, I noticed that I needed at least 4 times, or I needed like 4 sessions. And those sessions dependent, they were sort of like of different lengths. So it doesn't mean like I needed 4 2-hour sessions to finish a painting. But I do feel like I need this repetition or reoccurrence. I need to give myself some time after a session, whether it's 2 hours or 2 minutes, and then I need to go back. And I found myself falling back into a pattern of doing 4 iterations, or whatever that fancy word is. So I think what I'll do right now, I'm just going to set up the top of my potato shape, and I'm just going to go ahead and start doing my potato shape right here. And even I'm going to measure, because I'm going to keep the same size. I'm going to measure this distance right here. Okay, perfect. So about like 13 inches more or less. So, all right, so I think that's good. I'm starting with my first potato shape, the shoulder of my, or the neck of my mom. It's right here. So, and I'm just gonna do also the edge, about 9 inches of my mom's head. So what I'm doing right now is setting up an initial potato shape, and at the same time trying to find some measurements to decide the main, where the main inflections in curvature that may fall on my composition. So again, so my potato shape, this is where my mom's head starts. And I'm just gonna find out the distance between both. It's a 5.5 maybe. So like this. Okay, perfect. So that gives me an idea of where my dad's head is gonna start, and then how far is it gonna be from the edge? Around like 3.5, more or less. Okay, I think that's good. The hand pops up at the same level or height as the shoulder. Whoops. If you don't have a yardstick, I think it's a good tool to have. I use it all the time, and I see it in a lot of artist studios because it allows you, we talk about alignment a lot, vertical alignment, horizontal alignment. So to have a stick or something hard and linear in your studio where you work, it will allow you to um, make alignments. If you don't have a stick, you can use your longest paintbrush, and that will do it too. Okay, so I think that is my main potato shape, and I um, I do like the fact that I'm increasing the negative space even more. So this reminds me also to some of the paintings that Gerhard Richter, the German contemporary painter, did at the beginning of his career, in which he used familiar figures or figures that were close to him as or photographs of familiar figures as subjects for his paintings. And he never told anybody who those people were. He never told that some of those people were, one of them was his father and his uncle. So when he did the first exhibit of those pieces, nobody knew who those people were. There's something really interesting. That's a completely different story. If you're interested in that story, which I think you should, please watch a movie titled Never Look Away. That explains, it's a fascinating movie. It explains the story of why he used, there's a very gruesome reason why he used photographs of his family as subject, but never told anybody at that time. So I'm at the potatoes shape stage still. And I was just kind of like trying to talk about how I anticipate that this will take me at least 4 sessions that will vary in length, but I know that being this a portrait, it's going to take me a little bit longer to do the sketching. So I am just refining some of the lines on my silhouette stage, some of the lines. So I'm trying to isolate. This is kind of like an important step. Let's sort of like unpack or deconstruct this. I am trying to isolate any details that I see on this photograph and just focus on the linear aspect that separates the positive space, the tangible, the figures, from the negative space. So I am making an effort to just concentrate on that separation between two sides. I am not looking at details or eyebrows or mouths or anything like that. And that is helping me in finding relationships between different parts of that linear division. So I can reflect on how much of a curvature I need to make on one side, or when am I going to bend or break that line on the other side? Where is the convergence or divergence of those lines without thinking of details? And the challenge that this subject will present, it's manifold. Because it's our parents, we're going to have a different approach, a different emotional sort of like bias. And by bias I mean criteria. We're going to feel like we're not doing a good job. We already feel we're not doing a good job with portraits anyhow at the very beginning. But with this, it's just going to be very confronting. So I'm trying to also preemptively tell myself, it's okay. The purpose of this, it's not to make an exact replica. There is a conceptual reason behind this. And anything that results of my actions will be valid and beautiful and amazing. So I'm going to take this one step at a time and try to detach myself from any criteria that I sort of like pile up on top of everything that I can expect from this. it's an exercise. I'm gonna make like an alignment with a break of the line between the shoulder, the hand. It's an exercise in emotional restraint, not just an exercise of painting restraint. In order for me to have the ability to continue building with confidence and in an assertive way, I need to detach myself from the expectations of this subject. All right, I am, hi everyone. Hi Hania, greetings. Thanks for joining us from the UK. That's amazing. I'm so happy already about this line. I feel like in this kind of like minutes filled with too many words that maybe are too big for me, I feel like I made a huge progress with the measuring and the adjusting. Sometimes I find how powerful just a silhouette can be, and how much room and ground can give me to manipulate without feeling too overwhelmed. Okay, I'm going to jump from this. I'm going to jump to structural lines. Okay, so these are the lines that are going to break up the silhouette into smaller pieces. So, you know, the clear one, I would say it's the profile of the figure on the left. I think I'm going to try to, as a practice as a detachment practice, I'm going to try to refer to these figures as the figure on the left and the figure on the right, rather than my mom and my dad, because I feel like language wise, if I say this, I'm already going to put so much pressure. So I'm going to try to create a separation, a break, a separation. I'm also going to try to find out some angles. Okay, so what I do is, oops, let me see if I can give you an example. Okay, so what I do is I align things on the photograph. I freeze my wrist. I kind of like lock it, avoid any movement of the joint, and then I just pivot right here and find out if that correlates or doesn't correlate. So just giving you a visual example. I'm going to do it with this hand. Okay, this kind of like works. I just want that angle, and it's much more angled. We tend to make diagonals pretty flat, and my theory is that because we have such strong parameters on the outside of our format, that anything that feels a little bit too away from that horizontal or vertical almost feels scary. So we always comply to the vertical and horizontal of our format rather than actually seeing the diagonal for what it is. And we end up with an added level of stiffness on our portraits. So even with a jaw, I'm just gonna absolutely much more. And the chin, let me kind of like bring how low this, whoa, I was off by almost an inch. So I'm just gonna bring this down. And I'm gonna also measure the point from the left about a little bit less than 8 inches. So, okay, the chin is a little bit to the right. And the eye level, the lower eye level, which gives me the bone, the cheekbone, is right here. Okay, so, okay, here we go. I'm gonna remove some of this. And I think that's gonna be okay. I'm not gonna go forward. I'm gonna do the image of my dad. Here we go. Of the other figure. um, and I'm trying to, I know that this seems like silly, but it's not. I know that psychologically. Okay, here we go. I need to be able to move forward with emotional restraint. And there is, I'm doing an axis line right now. There is a little bit of an angle on that axis line. So I think I'm gonna move the chin towards the left. Okay, I think that's good. All right, so nice. So the two faces, I'm gonna start doing some necklines. I think that could be a good way of anchoring those head shapes with the actual body of the figure. Okay. And just here we go. Yeah. So I'm doing structural lines. That's where I'm at. Charcoal stage, however long it takes, whatever long it is, or so I'm not gonna put pressure. Okay, so I'm gonna start shading a little bit because I think the shading can give me an idea. Yeah, I'm gonna start shading darker areas. Darker areas. Here we go. Some darker areas. I think that's okay. So I'm building my puzzle pieces from the outside in, meaning, I'm trying to create structural lines that break up the main silhouette into bigger pieces. By all means, I am not going to do any detail right now because I think this work is much more important than doing details. Doing details right now would equal to building a house from the roof down. I need to get my main masses, my main areas, my main fields. I need to be able to move them, manipulate them, shade them, expand them, shrink them. And if I have details right now, they will get on my way. I won't be able to make those seismic shifts that I need to with these big masses inside of the potato shape. So in my approach to this, no details right now, so I don't get crowded with elements that will become almost sort of like a minefield that I have to work around, that I have to, impossible to move from this place to that place. I need to work the masses, the bigger areas first. So there is this kind of like a darker area at the bottom of this part and the hand. So the hand, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna do the hand as if it's wearing a mitten. Okay, so I think that is good. I think that's good. I think that's good. So far, I am okay with this. And let's just check my masses right now. So this area, it's a really big mass. So I'm going to start shading darker to lighter in order to help me understand its place, its scale, and its relationship with the rest of the areas in this little tiny puzzle that I'm making. Details will come. but not now. At least in my process, at least in my process. Okay, so I think that is, so there is a little bit of an angle on this. Okay, see, I'm just gonna use this, freeze it, and I was doing the exact opposite tilt. So I'm just gonna bring that tilt, and I'm gonna bring that tilt on the left. And unless we support our decisions sometimes with some trick or crutch or tool, we will start making our interpretation of this, and our eyes will decide what they want to see. So it's good sometimes to check in and anchor things by using tools like alignment or angles or measuring, because it kind of like gives you an opportunity to reflect how far from that point you are. And then you can decide if you want to be that far or if you want to kind of like walk back and make that adjustment. And again, an adjustment and a correction are two different things. An adjustment is just the awareness of something that has strayed too far away from what you thought you were. So it doesn't have any implication of something being wrong. Whereas a correction, it kind of like brings this idea of fixing, which it's not what we're doing. Okay, so another area, it's the sleeve on the side of my dad's sweater. And the hand, the sleeve on my, the figure. I'm just gonna say mom and dad, that's okay. It's too much. Why do I need to do that? Okay, yay. So I'm building and I feel happy about what I have so far. I'll do the chairs maybe later, but I'll kind of like bring this. I'll need to reinterpret. So I know that the chair kind of like falls this way. So yeah, I'll just imagine, recreate that space. I'm going to go for time-wise. I think we're okay, half an hour for this. I think that this was very, very important. And I'm going to go for facial features without making it too complex because I want to start staining. So I'm not going to go through the specifics of the anatomy of a face, which I so love because it gives us the opportunity to kind of like deconstruct or deconstruct the different parts of the face. But I will tell you that the most important things right here will be on this two-figure portrait: the eye level, the axis of the head, and maybe the mouth level, I would say. Yeah, eye level, axis of the head, and mouth level. So I'm going to try to put those and then filled in later when I start painting the rest by pivoting from these main areas. So axis, this figure is facing forward, and this figure is in a 3/4 position. So I'm going to try to create an axis. One is straight, one is round. So I'm going to use the alignment method to log my arm. It's a little bit, I'm going to make the axis on this figure. And then this one, I'm going to sort of like do it like that, but then I'm going to create a circle, no, an arch. So axis of the head on one facing forward and the other one 3/4 perspective. Right? Yes. So, okay. Eye level. So I'm going to use this for the eye level, more or less. So the keystone may be right here. And the eye level on the other one, it kind of like coincides, it's a little bit higher. And from the eye level, I'm gonna do the axis of the eyes. It's a little bit tilted. And this one, it's quite pronounced. So I'm just gonna use this. Whoa, much more than I would have done. Okay, so yes, and then this one. Okay, perfect. So I got the axis of the face, the eye level, and also the tilt. So very rarely you'll find the axis between the eyes being completely horizontal. So don't get tricked by the illusion that the eyes are aligned horizontally, because most likely they are not. All right, so based on that, maybe now I'm gonna do the mouth level. I said 3 elements. So on my dad, more or less, it's right here. And on my mom, it's a little higher right here. So what I'm gonna do after I mark the point on the head axis, I'm gonna do a little bit of that mouth level, and also just the line between the lips, by the way, just a line between the lips. And I'm kind of like marking the length as well. Okay, I think that is good. So I don't want to spend too much time doing the things inside of the face, but I'll sort of like try to do, so this is the eye. I'll try to do a little bit of the marks of from darker to lighter. With the eyebrows. The bone structure of the face. And then I just could do the bottom of the nose, perhaps. I could just fill in the bottom of the nose on the side. Okay, yeah. All right, so I'm just like filling in with some details, mostly shading. I don't want to do too many lines. And I think I have like a, oh yeah. I remember a summer, maybe like 4 years ago, I went to see my parents, and then I took with me a sketch pad and everything, but I also took with me a little chalkboard, because I was determined to practice letting go, in the sense that I would just do a sketch of a portrait of somebody, and then take a picture with chalk on the little chalkboard, take a picture of it, and then wipe it off, and then do a different portrait. I wanted to practice letting go, not getting so obsessed in bettering one drawing or judging it. I wanted it to feel immediate, and so I'll find the word, immediate, and not permanent, impermanent. So I could just keep practicing and rely on spontaneity and the power of observance to move from one portrait to the next. And the portraits were really nice. I was like really happy that I was able to create something that I could stand behind. Okay, so I am going to spend maybe just a few more minutes. Right now, I feel like my ego is kicking in, and you will not know how much this will confront you compared to other portraits until you are experiencing this emotional sort of like presence that's going to tell you, it's going to scream at us and say, you know, what are you doing, more than any other portrait. So we have to be resilient, and we have to it's kind of like restrain those calls for judging if we want to arrive to whatever destination this will take us. Okay. So I'm saying now my ego is kind of like playing just because I want to, I feel like, you know, I'm getting into a boxing ring with myself. And I'm sort of like trying to tame and bring some, okay, here we go. Or wrestle rather than just laying the foundation. You need to let go. So it's just going to be okay. So right now, okay, here we go. Okay, and the neck. All right. The lips are always tricky because we tend to make them really strong, and they take such power over everything else. They're so ruthless in demanding attention from the viewer that our job making lips is not to give them too much definition, at least at the beginning, because they could quickly overtake the narrative entirely and be this only a portrait of a mouth with a face attached to it. All right, I need to let the ego step outside of this, because right now it's just a matter of like trying to prove something to myself. No. And I think I'm gonna just go over the painting. I think it's enough because I could just spend so much time with this, and this is not a charcoal drawing. So I'm done with the sketch. I'm really happy. Maybe I'm just gonna allow everyone to continue a little bit longer in the boxing ring while I prep my liquids and paints, because I didn't have time to. I usually, last night was a little bit crazy, so I didn't have time to send the email. So this morning I was working on the email and stuff like that. So I'm just changing the palette paper, the disposable. This is why this is so great and convenient, because it's easy to replace rather than just, it's cheaper than getting a new palette, which is what happens when you put all the colors on the palette and then they start getting crusty and dry, and then you don't want to paint anymore because it's such a hassle to redo it or scrape it. So clean new palette, just like that. I'm gonna attach the little cups. Okay, so my liquids, the solvent and the oil. And I'm gonna bring my staple colors, the neutrals, and this should take me just a minute. And then in the meantime, if you are working on your charcoal, because this needs a little bit of extra time. Portraits, as we know, the sketching time, it's a little bit longer just because we want to have more time to move things around. Give yourself permission to move things in your sketch. You have two options. You can move things now and reflect on things, or rush. That's a little passive aggressive I'm going to throw right now. Rush through the process, go into painting, and then have much more difficulty moving things around later down the road. So see the passive aggressiveness that I just threw. Move things around now when it's dry, when you're using a dry media. I'm deciding right now also that I'm going to stick with my with the staple palette. I'm not going to bring any colors. So just the basic neutrals and the salmon rose and periwinkle. And that's it. I need to buy more paint. Okay, here we go. And finally, the gray, the medium gray. Yeah, I need to buy more paint for sure. Okay, so I'm ready for my first wet layer, which is going to be the imprimatura. I love saying this, imprimatura. So the staining, essentially. Big brush. Do I have a big brush? Yes. Big brush. I'm going to get my rack ready. And so this is the transition between dry and wet. And I'm going to stick with as fewer, I don't know if that's colors as possible, neutral colors. Solvent. Solvent is okay. And then I'm going to start with a chromatic black, and I'm going to, with a big brush, I'm going to start blocking out those masses that I just shifted at the beginning. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Is this the right liquid? It feels like really gooey. I think it is. I'm going to bring some more of the orange, solvent. So something, I don't have the, I have the book in a different room that I cannot access right now. Along with the materials, because we bring the book everywhere we go paint. So we took it to Trails Cafe this week. And I think it's one of the bags. But in one of the chapters we recently discussed, we talked about solvent being an anti-paint, sort of like working with paint in order to create a conflict between thickness and liquidness. So there was an interesting way, very poetic way to see a solvent, you know, as an anti-paint. Okay, so there's some darkness right here. And I'm going to use some gray, actually. Even for this. So using the rack, trying to kind of like think color fields. We always kind of like bring the analogy to simplify and explain what is imprimatura. Kind of like color fields. Color fields, for me, color fields means a field that it's not fenced. A field is something that it feels natural and organic. It's no, there are no property lines. There's no marking. There are no walls containing anything. There's no constriction, and there's no boundary. So that's how I approach the imprimatura. I try, as much as I make some edges when I apply the paint, at the same time, I also leave spaces that are open. So I don't feel like, you know, it's important for me not to feel like I am painting by numbers at this stage. Um, and painting by numbers, as awful as it sounds, to me, it means containing, shaping, limiting, uh, drawing boundary. Um, uh, we want to do that later, but right now, with the imprimatura, I just want to sort of like open up the fields of color. So that's why the rag could be a good way to create that. Okay, so that's good. And I think for now, I'm going to use the linen color, the ecru, to just apply on the skin. I'm not going to do any skin tone or anything like that. And actually, this was like really, I'm glad I didn't do much work on the face, because right now, this is completely blurring everything that I've done. Not really. We always say, oh my gosh, we're destroying what we built. We're not destroying it. They can still build the bone structure with the imprimatura. Totally, I can totally do that. I can totally do that. So let's not be so terrified about imprimatura. It's kind of like ruining everything. See, it's possible. And I'm bringing a little bit more. That's it. The main goal of the imprimatura is to just create a wet layer, prime the surface, seal the charcoal, and have our first wet layer on the paper. So there's no right or wrong, really. There's no right or wrong, because there's a very technical reason for this. That's pretty good. Okay, I'm going to continue with the imprimatura on the other side and see what happens, darker to lighter. So I'm going to do eyes. And do sort of like a blur. It's kind of like do like a blur. This is white, but I'm just going to do. Okay, and the background is just going to be the color of my sludge. Yeah, I think that's good. The color of my sludge. So I'm gonna wet, just it's liquid. There's not even paint. There's some pigment from weeks ago that's right there, and that's enough. Again, the imprimatura is sort of like the application of a wet layer, so we get a good foundation. Maybe I'll just bring a little bit more of the ecru and some chromatic black. Okay, I think that's good. I think that's good. I think that's good. Perfect. I'm done with the imprimatura. So I'm actually not, I'm actually quite happy of how much I have accomplished in the first hour or the first chunk of the first hour in reflecting about the composition that I wanted, debating which part of the portrait I wanted to feature, thinking about what point of view I wanted on that photograph, further away, closer up. And then working on alignments, potato shape, trying to branch off the potato shape and go into the structural lines in an organic way, making sure that the details were not uh, on my way, shading a little bit, and then using the imprimatura as a way of transitioning away from the dry stage into the wet area. So far, I feel like, I've done a tremendous amount of work in a very short time. So I'm just going to move on to first color notes right now, and I'll explain what first color notes are. First color notes, it's one of the most important parts of the entire painting process, because we do a couple of monumental things. Number one, we start bringing some fences. I talked about color fields being completely open and without boundaries, but with first color notes, we initiate the beginning of encapsulating or enclosing some of those color fields. So there is a huge drawing component on this stage. And the second thing that happens at the same time is that we're starting to process our color palette. So we are mixing colors on our palette that give us an approximate direction of color on our composition. So I'm gonna switch to the smaller brushes. I think I just, yeah, I went to the art store and I just found this brush that it's not too bad. It's kind of like medium, Winsor and Newton. And yeah, so it's a bright brush, which means that the ferrule, it's flattened. So, but it just gives you a semi-pointy. I think, all these series and distinctions are a little bit silly, but all right. So the easy part here, I brought my cellophane sheet. The easy part here is starting from dark to light, because they have like a pretty, yeah, but that is not black. So I know that there's a little bit of gray that's too light. Okay, it's a little bit of gray. I think so. So what I'm going to do is use a little bit of oil and a little bit of this, and I'm going to start applying some color blocks. So this is a massive area of blocked color. So I want a little bit more opacity. Okay, that's good. A little bit more opacity. Okay, so I start redrawing. I start resketching. I have a better understanding of where things are right now. I don't simply retrace. I think that's very important, because of the process of painting being so uncharted and so not explained well. I just feel like, for centuries, there's always this separation between drawing and painting. And I feel like, the way I see people approaching the process, in which you have to have a good drawing, and then unless you have a good drawing, you cannot move on to painting. And then painting becomes almost a mechanical step in which you just fill in between the lines. It's all drawing. From beginning to end, it's all drawing. We only change the tools and the medium, but it's all the same. So right now, I'm not retracing only. I'm taking the opportunity of having something that I worked on for the first hour, to find out how I can refine it, how I can manipulate it in a way that it becomes much more elevated. Those nuances in the decline of the line or the curvature of the line, I have another opportunity to go over them and make them heard. What am I trying to do? Oops, something's falling. It's okay. So there's a line separating the figure on the left and the figure on the right that I didn't catch. Okay, here we go. Darker to lighter, darker to lighter. It's always a good way here of so imagine that you are digging a mine and you have all this amazing precious metal underneath the ground. And where are you going to start digging first? So in painting, there's a certain similar approach or similar analogy. What are you going to do first? What are you going to paint first? What are you going to dig out first? So the simplest, you want something simple. You want a simple criteria. Start with your dark areas. That's what you're going to do to get into that monumental task of carving out an image out of nothing. So anchor your decisions and your execution on those darker areas and go from there. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm digging in this virgin mine. One dark area at a time. One dark area at a time. I don't care where they are. I don't care if it falls on the face or not. I need to start somewhere. And a good, simple, universal approach to start the process is to forget about the subject. Don't worry about where the figure is, or if there's a bird that looks really pretty and there's a flower that's super luscious. Start with your dark areas, regardless where they are. They serve as graphic anchors. You can always expand from that first dent. We're making dents right now, slowly. This will take a long time. We're impatient. We rush to achieve some level of likeness because we feel like that's going to give us the validation we need to continue moving forward. It's not like that. It's a long, slow, arduous process to carve something out of nothing. I was watching a clip by Maya Angelou. She was interviewed, I think, yes, it was her. And she was saying that of all the virtues that are out there, courage is the most important. It's not generosity. It's not, I don't know, whatever other virtue you can imagine. It's courage, because courage gives you tenacity and permanence. So without courage, you cannot be anything else. So I like this idea of approaching courage as becoming relentless in the pursuing of something. In painting, this is something that is important. Unless you show courage, the courage of continue working on that piece, nothing else will matter. It's the most important component on our palettes, because the courage sort of like allows us to be relentless or permanent or unstoppable. So I love this kind of like approach to virtue. If I have the link, that's when, for many other reasons, but that's when I miss Jen, apart from other reasons, because it's a really beautiful 30-second clip that explains why courage, it's the most important virtue. Okay, so darker to lighter. This is all drawing. I am making small dents. I am patient. I am courageous, because I know that this will take me to a place. I don't know where or what shape it's going to take, how long it's going to take. I don't know. I'm trying to simplify things by starting with a simple criteria, darker to lighter. I'm trying to practice detachment from the image itself. I could be painting anything right now. I'm doing kind of like blocks. Yeah, I think so. Color blocks. I went from color fields to color blocks. Ooh, and I think I'm just getting a little bit too ahead of, because I'm already using color, and I said I'm going to start with darks, and I'm happy that I have this kind of like almost black, but it's not black. I'm not going to do the glasses, because that is almost like such a fine detail. I'm going to do this figure's glasses at the end. So I'm not going to use black right there. And I'm going to continue. What's the next dark thing? So I'm going to use the cellophane and find out what kind of gray is that. There's a little bit more pink. I love when grays have some pink in them. It makes them a really dark mauve. And it's more pink. I'm going to use a lot of black in this part of the painting. Wow. It's not even, it needs a little bit, it needs warmth. I'm going to try to add burnt sienna. It's confusing me. I would have never imagined that this gray actually has a lot of warmth. Never. I am stunned. Okay, so that's why this process or this stage, first color notes, that's where I'm at. And this is why this is so crucial and important. I'm not only starting to set up some fences on my painting and getting the opportunity to having that draft done beforehand to finalize where I want those fences on. But at the same time, I'm preparing or developing the actual color palette. And for that, I need to study the shades by mixing some colors and then comparing them to what I have. In this case, I just realized that what I think was gray, it has a lot of warmth. So I thought pink was part of the equation, but no, I needed even more warmth. And then I brought in some burnt sienna. And I'm creating color blocks right now. Yeah, I'm creating color blocks. I'm trying not to be too specific, but at the same time, this gives me the opportunity to move the drawing forward and move the color palette forward at the same time. What happens in real life? In real life, we don't even consider this step. We skip it altogether. We go from imprimatura or sketch to second color notes. We start shading and adding texture and details. And we completely bypass this crucial step. We start doing like details and the nails, and now I'm going to do the upper lip, and there's no foundation. When you add details without a sound foundation, nothing holds. It's a weak painting, period. I can repeat that in a much more dramatic voice. I'm gonna take you back to what Jen showed us with the Flemish process of painting. 7 steps or 9 steps, each one taking a long time, and between each step, spending a lot of time. Out of the 9 or 7, I forgot, the last one was details, the last one. And you know, there was a reason for that. So chipping away, I think that's a good analogy. I'm chipping away slowly. It's a long, slow journey. Okay, but I think it's also a fast, I'm picking up some like a fast pace. Okay, I want to do 2 things. I want to do the blue and the purple on the shirts. So again, I'm processing the color. I'm studying the color. Yes, maybe a little bit more of the pink. It's so amazing how over all these years we've been organically adjusting our color palette, the staple color palette to our needs. And it's so amazing to find out that the light pink, the salmon rose, and the periwinkle are so fundamental. I find I go back to them in every single piece. They are the perfect alternatives to white, in which they are very pale, but yet they have color. So sometimes I want to change the cast of a color, but I don't want to add a strong color to counterbalance it. This is when these colors come into place, and they help us so much. Okay, so yeah, I got this shirt. Oops, that fell. It was more purpley than I thought. If I didn't study that color, it would be just the same blue as the palette. And if we don't process the colors, our paintings will look flat, because our viewers' eyes are very good at catching different shades of the hue or different temperatures. So not processing the paint enough makes the paintings look very monotone. You can recognize the colors too much. So I love doing this because to me, it's fun to surprise my eyes and my mind. It's fun to go back at it after, I don't know how many years I've painted, many years, and still be surprised that the cast I thought I created for a particular shade is not the actual one. There's something there that surprises me, and that makes it so exciting every time so exciting. This element of surprise of saying, you know what, painting will never be fully understood. And maybe that's why we've been doing it for so many centuries, because it keeps surprising us. It keeps surprising us, because if we completely harnessed the full potential of the possibilities of painting, it would be in the past. We would not do it. Nothing that has no mystery prevails or becomes permanent. And I think in painting, there's something mysterious that makes it captivating always. And that's why we're here. Okay, so I think it's that element of surprise. It's better to approach painting with an open mind and embrace the surprise as an excitement than seeing it as a challenge in which we need to accomplish something. Oops. I think the process of painting, it's not necessarily quantifiable. And unless we make that switch, we will always feel frustrated about painting. So much so that some people quit it. I'm going to go to her blouse or top or t-shirt. Yeah, I was kind of like thinking, so, you know, after 2 years, and obviously that, I mean, that is a personal story, but after 2 years, I flew to Spain, and it was nice to see them and spend time with them, and it was really nice. Let me see if I can find wolf. No, that's not the color. Wow, it's really amazing. I think it needs more red. So when the war broke last week, and even before then, yeah, a lot of red. I think our hearts sunk again, because it's this idea of like, here are we gonna, our things are interrupted again, you know, being afraid in a different way. It's not an epidemic, but in a way, there's a sense of paralysis about going about your life. Again, you know, it just feels like, okay, I'm just like adding this tones. I trust the process. I know I will get somewhere. I know I will get somewhere. I need to remind myself of practicing positive affirmations also in painting, and not let doubt overtake the process. I will get somewhere, and it's just going to be spectacular and amazing and touching, and it's going to teach me so much, and it's going to prepare me for the next painting. And okay, so I think that's good. I'm again chipping away. I have a huge mountain that I need to carve, and I'm overwhelmed by where I'm gonna start carving, but I know that this has helped me position, or it has helped me start. Okay, so that's pretty nice. I'm exhausted already. But okay, I'm gonna continue. So let's kind of like think of a strategy. I'm gonna do the skin notes, the skin tones, I'm sorry. Yes, I think that could be a good way to continue. So let me study the skin tones. And even if I do the entire face with one tone, that would be okay. So do I do darker to lighter? No, I'm just gonna do a skin tone for now. Yes, that's my plan. I'm gonna do a skin tone. So I'm gonna start with maybe some ecru and yellow ochre. And then I'm gonna bring some burnt sienna. That usually seems like a good combination. And then this is, whoa, it's super yellow. Okay, so change of plan. Burnt sienna and salmon rose. Boom, got it. Burnt sienna, salmon rose, and a touch of ecru. Oh, it's so perfect. It's so perfect. So with skin tones, we always kind of like mention something very specific about, it's a technical component. Because of the nature of our paint, and because we're using mostly mineral-based pigments, there is a tendency for the paint for the paint to create very yellowing skin tones. It's not because we made a mistake or that we are not seeing well. It's because the nature of the paint kind of like takes us to that on that direction. So I have learned to introduce more warm tones when I create skin tones to avoid or to counterbalance. I wouldn't say to cancel, because there is some yellow on the skin, but to counterbalance the yellowness created with the pigments. Okay, so I'm gonna bring some oil right now. I created a medium tone and I'm debating because I'm not doing darker to lighter. I think I'm just gonna add the medium tone in a few chunks first. Yes. And then from the medium tone, I'm gonna take some ecru, no white, and I'm gonna start to expand on both sides of that value spectrum from going to lighter. I'm gonna put a lighter spot right there. And then darker. The darker feels, let me see, gray and burnt sienna. Is this it? This is what I mean by surprising. I can have fun by myself. I don't need anybody. I have painting. Okay, so gray and burnt sienna. Oh my gosh, that's pretty awesome. Just gray and burnt sienna. I've never made flesh tone with gray and burnt sienna. Maybe needs a little bit of umber. It's like making your own little tiny cookbook. Am I gonna mix this with that? Is it gonna work? I think it's working. I think it's working. That's a very good, I think it's working. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for this recipe. Gray and burnt sienna. How about that? And color blocking. I'm color blocking. I'm not retracing. I'm not retracing. I am not retracing. I'm just color blocking and let the color blocking create the edges. Yeah, I think so. Okay, so the space between or on the eye socket. I need to build the eye socket. Yeah. And the eyebrow. Chipping away one little spoonful of dirt in this huge mountain, one spoonful at a time. That's my shoveling tool. Just the teaspoon. Each brushstroke, it's a teaspoon. Seems like it's never gonna happen. I'll never be able to discover anything in this mind, but no, we will. We just have to be courageous in persevering or continuing with this process, and everything will fall into place. I'm going to bring some darker notes. Okay. And then some of this color. Maybe the ear. Just gonna bring it. And then, you know, I'm gonna maybe the hairline. Let's kind of like do the hairline. I'm gonna bring some white actually, because I feel like that area is super light. Yeah. Yes. And then, yeah, some other, I need to bring some more lightness. Maybe I'll just bring some light notes. I'm not doing the eyes, just the bone structure. And I feel like I'm getting somewhere actually. I feel like I'm getting somewhere. I'm gonna use some oil, just plain oil, and kind of like close some of the gaps. Because I feel like, you know, I need to get an effect of where the masses are, or the little spoonfuls that I added. Okay, I think that's good. Yeah, I think that's good. All right, so I'm gonna leave it here. I want to do the hair already, kind of like move forward, but I'm gonna leave it here because I feel like I need to go to the other side, different skin tone. Let me see, I'm gonna start with this. Yellow ochre, I go back to yellow ochre and ecru because I feel like it's a little bit of a yellow cast. Ooh, we need to make, it needs to be a little darker. So maybe some burnt sienna. This needs a little bit more yellow ochre. Making my own. Yeah. And some of the salmon rose. Yep. Okay. I got sort of like a, it's always like a combination between any of the neutrals. Okay. I don't know if that helps or not, but I'm not adding blue in this case, but it's always a combination of like ecru and salmon rose, or salmon rose and burnt sienna, maybe a tad of like yellow ochre. So there's always a dash of any of those colors in order to make the, yeah. So I'm gonna go for it and see what happens. I feel like this area has it. And I noticed that drawing wise, I need to make some changes here already. I need to make some changes, some oil. Let's start with the chin. And one dent at a time. One dent at a time. I'm not rubbing, I'm not buffing, I'm not stirring, I'm not mopping, I'm not dragging or shifting too much. I am sort of like placing brush strokes. Like this could be a good example, like now here, and I stop. And then maybe now I'm going to add it here and I stop. And we have to catch ourselves from marching on with the process. If we just mechanically scoop paint, apply it, scoop paint, apply it, without reflecting and without practicing restraint, we're going to start building and building, and it's going to be so cramped or cluttered. Yes, we don't want a cluttered painting right now, that we're going to lose control. So one dent at a time, going back and forth with my eyes, back and forth, trying to find out where here we go. The mouth is so much lower than I thought. So again, this idea of drawing being everything. This is all drawing. A little bit higher, just adding this here. So kind of like building these pieces. I'm going to use some darker notes right now. I think this is a little bit lower. There's also this darker area under the neck. Just going to add it to the neck. There's, okay, that sounds good. I don't want to do the red lipstick because it's not red, but I need to bring some darkness on the lips. First of all, line between the lips. Line between the lips. I think that's good. Line between the lips. And then the area above the upper lip. Just gonna, without tracing too much, and the area below. The area below is much lighter. So I'm gonna use like a really light color. Okay, I think that's okay. And then the nose is defined by the darker edge. So maybe I just apply these little chunks for now. Little chunks. Okay, that's good. Little chunks. I'm just kind of like building some tiny details like this. This needs to be lower. The nostril, I'm not even going to do it because, you know, nostrils sometimes are like lips. They want that protagonism. They just take over too much. And then all we see is a nostril with a face attached to it. I forgot who made a similar. Okay. So I'm going to bring some lighter notes. Yeah. Really gentle. Ooh, something's happening. Trust the process. Try to make peace with the idea that this is a slow, long journey, and we are carving out this mountain one spoonful at a time, one tiny brushstroke at a time. You need to forget the sense of time. You need to forget the quantifiable ethos of time. Time does not exist. It's not about how long will it take us to achieve something. It's how we walk towards it that matters. So yeah, practice positive reinforcement. This will take you somewhere. It will be successful. Be courageous. Courageousness is about tenacity, and it's about yeah. Okay, I'm gonna bring in some darker notes, but I'm gonna keep the color of the skin, because sometimes when we paint eyes, or especially eyebrows, we make them way too dark. So what I'm gonna do is I just made a color that's similar to skin, but it's slightly lighter. I mean, darker. Okay, I'm not happy about that one, but that's okay, because oil painting is amazing and will allow me to make whatever adjustments. I was right about the eyebrows. Be careful with how dark your eyebrows or the eyebrows of the figure are, because I just made them too dark. And also the density of the eyebrow, it's not even from the head to the tail. Find the richness of range on an eyebrow that goes from higher density and wider span to thinner density and narrower expansion. I'm going to do the eyes in a similar way. Okay. All right. This surprise that keeps us coming back, this idea of like, we don't know, and painting kind of sort of like surprising us every time. Wow, I didn't know this was going to happen. We could live 1,000 years and still be surprised, but by what comes out of a combination of colors and consistencies. And okay, I'm going to bring some darkness. I'm going to paint from the outside. Okay. Yeah, this is nice. Ooh, this is good. Give yourself compliments. We're doing great, you know. Yeah, by just doing, it's we are deserving. By just being engaged, we are deserving. Be kind, be generous with yourself. Okay, all right, I'm gonna sort of like stop, because I feel like with portraits, there's always this tunnels, narrow tunnels that for whatever reason, or maybe I'll just kind of like try to, the best I can, explain it with an analogy. I come across videos of recently, I haven't seen these videos before, of situations in which an animal is trapped. Either it's a raccoon inside of a trash can, or it's a squirrel inside of a ditch, and there's a human that is trying to save the animal. So the human is using different tools. In the ditch, maybe the human is using a shovel and is trying to put the shovel underneath the animal so they can use the shovel as an elevator out of the ditch. Or in the trash can with a raccoon, maybe just like dropping a log or something where um, the raccoon could be able to climb up and get out of the place. So, but that's not the kick of the video. The kick of the video is the fact that after the rescue is accomplished, the animal either jumps in another trash can or runs towards another ditch. and that's the sort of like the kick of the video, that the animal after rescue keeps getting back into the same position. I feel I can use this analogy with painting. Sometimes we find a place in the painting where we get stuck and we start like digging even further. So the idea is that if we are able to come out of that place, whatever that is, in whatever shape or form, we have to learn not to fall again into another ditch. And I just think it's human nature. We will keep falling we're going to go from ditch to ditch, but we have to be careful because that can drain all our creative energy, our painterly fuel. So in order to be courageous and in order to persist, we need to have energy. We need to have stamina. If we keep hitting our head against the wall constantly, we're going to lose that. So I'm going to, all that to try to explain that I'm going to get out of this before it becomes a ditch and then go somewhere else. Because with portraits, we have a tendency to find that ditch where we're going to insidiously and stubbornly think that we need to solve something there. And then we're going to drain the entire energy. So I'm going to go to the hands. Strategy wise, I still have 20 minutes, I would say. No, like, yes, 25 minutes. Wow. So I'm going to go to the hand. Let me just kind of like plan a strategy. I'm going to go to the hand and see if I can develop it. And I feel after the hand, I'm going to try to get a sense of the hair, because I feel like right now in both figures, the hair, maybe the figure, the area of the eye, but I can do that later. But it's the hair that needs a little bit of like TLC. Okay, let me just go to the hand. I'm going to use the same color right here. And I need to make it. I ran out of it, and I just, I know it's going to be different. Some yellow ochre, some pink. I'm putting a little dash of every color. Maybe some white. If you just focus on the present moment, don't think about how far the destination is, because it may be so far from view that we may end up despairing. Oh my gosh, I will never be able to finish this. Instead, look back and see all the tiny teaspoons that you shoveled out of the mountain, how far they sort of like, how far you are compared to those like beginning dents. I think it's a good way to find confidence in knowing that we are on the right track. Look back, see how much work we've done, dent by dent. There's no reason to go faster. There's no reason to speed it up in any way. We have to keep chipping away this sort of like a big block. same speed, maybe even slower this time, maybe even slower. Yeah, I think that's nice. I think that's nice. I like to think of each step or each stage. It makes me happy because if I were to see this in a gallery, I would like it already the way it is. And I think it's important to find that enjoyment in each stage. Finding value in something doesn't come for free. We have to learn that habit. Um, Otherwise, we'll always feel like we um, haven't achieved anything that it's worth valuing. So learn personally, and perhaps I should kind of like direct this words towards myself personally. Um, I need to learn to find value in what I do. I need to learn to find value in what I do. It's not something that suddenly appears or suddenly happens. Something that is effortless, or it's I can control. No, I can influence that feeling. I can influence and learn how to find value in any states that I have. In fact, only when I find value in every stage, I will feel inspired to continue that journey. If I don't learn to find value in each stage, I wouldn't be inspired to take it further. Okay, so I think that's a pretty reasonable hand so far. Yeah, I like the slight distortion. Oh, this makes me so happy. I'm so glad we're doing this. It just puts my spirit out of the dark, dry well it's been watching this horrendous news, the doom scrolling. I love that word. Um, I'm glad that this brings some light into the experience. So, all right, so hair. What am I going to do with the hair? I'm going to start with the hair on this figure. And I think it's just simple gray. Sometimes the hair picks up the color of the skin. Haven't you painted portraits before in which the skin tone and the hair feel so, what's the word? It's not disassociated, but there's such dissonance between the color of the hair and the color of the skin. And then when you start sort of like analyzing and studying that color, it almost feels like the skin tone uh, projects on the color of the hair somehow. There is much more harmony than when we present it. So I look at this hair and I think gray hair and immediately think, okay, gray hair equals gray. And this gray, the gray on my palette, has nothing to do with the gray of the hair. It's too blue, it's too dark, and it's too colorless. So we have to be careful when we recognize a color with our mind. Our mind says, okay, this is purple. And then we make the color purple on the palette because our mind told us to do. And the color has nothing to do with purple. So it's better not to name any colors and go with your own study. I'm going to mix some gray and some flesh tone. Okay, maybe not. we're in the painting lab right now. So we are experimenting. Okay, it's not gray and skin tone, but there's a little bit, maybe it's gray and skin tone and ecru. Yes, yes, yes. I think so. Okay, okay. I think I got it. I think I got it. There's definitely color in this hair, this gray hair. It's not gray. Speaking of gray, I was walking in a market this weekend and someone, this is not an original idea, but I am going to steal it because someone wore a t-shirt, someone of a certain age with white hair wore a t-shirt that says openly gray. I started laughing because I love these games with words. Instead of openly gay, they play with the word gray, and the person had like great hair, and I thought it would make a great roofless t-shirt, openly gray. At first, when I laid my eyes on the t-shirt, I read openly gay, but obviously, and it shocked me. But then I just like spent a little bit of a few extra milliseconds, and then I was like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. It made me happy. And don't we want to bring some happy moments out there? So watch out for the openly gray roofless t-shirt. It's coming. Right, I'm gonna bring some lighter notes. Where was that gray? Lighter notes. Chipping away. I'm not even using a teaspoon. I'm using a salt spoon. I don't even know if there's such a thing, but those little containers that have like a tiny scoop. A tiny scoop. See, a salt spoon. Okay. Okay. Maybe I'll just bring one hairy guy. I need to bring one hairy guy. Do I have one? I have one. Okay. I'm gonna bring one hairy guy right now. Because I feel like, you know, the hair needs to be, the edge of the hair needs to be scratched and combed. Oops. Yeah, I think so. Okay. Oops. I'm gonna bring some white. And then the other figure's hair, it's a different gray. It's a different gray. Lighter, and it has more pink. I see more pink in this gray. It's much lighter. Much lighter. So I think that's it. I think that's it. Okay, so I'm going in some oil. And it makes sense that I like the fact that it went from darker to lighter. So towards the conclusion of my first session on this portrait, it makes me happy that I'm using lighter tones. Just feels like I'm following some, what are the, I'm getting too overwhelmed with words right now. Some Flemish breakthrough. I'm having some Flemish breakthrough from darker to lighter. I think that's what I want to say. And then I'm bringing some, maybe some blue right here. And I'm gonna open this up. I want some abstraction there. I want some abstraction. I'm letting the paint fall into mounds. You know, I'm chipping in, but I'm not rearranging anything too much. I'm not getting too OCD about it. I'm chipping away and throwing into groups. When I say mounds, I mean groups, nothing specific, nothing too literal. Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think so. I'm gonna bring some kind of like gray tone. I'm going slow. I'm going slow. I think it's very important. I'm going slow. One piece at a time. I don't care where point B is gonna be. I don't care. I don't care if it takes me one day or 1 century. That's not the point. I'm just following each brushstroke with another brushstroke. And that's it. That is it. Trying to kind of like make this like tease the hair here. Tease it so it feels less contained or Lego-like. I'm teasing the hair, just creating some directional brush strokes, bringing some light tones. Yeah, kind of like slowly. And maybe I'll bring some oil, just the way I did with the other figure. And bring some oil, just not too much, but some oil. And I'm gonna use the oil to close some gaps. Use the oil to kind of like close some gaps. Oopsie. Too much dark on this area. Some oil and letting the paint, letting it surprise me. Letting the paint surprise me. I think this is much lighter. Why? Yeah. That's a lot of white. I think that's okay. I'm gonna bring some light notes on the skin of this figure. I need some light notes on the cheekbone and under the eye. Yeah. Also on the nose. This needs to be a little lighter. And I'm gonna bring some lightness also, defining the upper lid. Oh yeah. And some darker areas. Oh yeah. Let me bring some oil also. Just oil, simple oil. I'm bringing simple oil and I'm just moisturizing. Yeah, that gap, that will do it. I don't need to do anything else. I don't need to do it to do anything else. Just bring some darker notes on the parched. I mean, bring some oil on those darker areas. Okay, that sounds good. Okay, so 5 minutes, 5 minutes. And maybe I'll just bring some, since I'm working on darker areas on the figure, I'm gonna bring some darkness on the eye. Almost applying it almost in a sloppy way. Yeah, applying it in a sloppy way. My brush is not like a super miniature brush. I'm just kind of like a scooping it out, letting it fall on a mound. Ah, that's cute. A darker note, maybe the bags under the eyes create such a strong contrast. I'm going to bring a little bit of that contrast. Ah, yeah. So very slowly I'm building. I'm not stirring. I'm not mopping. I'm not dragging. I'm throwing confetti at it. May it fall or let it fall where it may. A little bit of lightness here. Every time, a little bit of lightness. I think this, okay. Yeah, maybe some pink and light tone right on the side. This is to be lifted, little lighter area without dragging it too much. Okay, yeah, ooh, that's good, working. That is working. And I'm gonna bring some purple or lavender. I just feel like on the lips on the figure are slightly dry. They don't shine, but kind of like reflect this frostiness. And I want to bring that on the lip. Yeah, I think so. It just kind of like shows a little bit of like vulnerability, almost fragility. My dad turned, he turned 84 in February. So yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm getting a little bit too excited. We have 3 minutes. I feel like now I'm starting to, I'm starting to feel like I have enough tiny, I carved enough out of this mountain to actually see something. It's like the movies, the pirate movies, when they dig, they have the map and they dig and then they keep digging. And then there's one shovel, not one push of the shovel that sounds like a knock. And then there's a silence, there's a pause, because you keep digging and digging and digging, and then boom, you knock on something. That's where I'm at right now. Just as I'm about to end this session, I feel I hit the first knock. Yeah, all right. I'm gonna stop because I know that sometimes I get too excited and I want to do more. And then I feel like I want to do, I'm gonna do some more work. With eyes, I try to be equal. So I try to be a good democratic person. giving the same amount of time to each area. So when I feel I want to do more, I know I need to stop and then go somewhere else, because otherwise I'm going to put all my effort, all my enthusiasm and excitement and joy in one eye, that I'm not going to have enough of that excitement. I'm going to be burnt out, and I'm not going to have the same level of stamina and excitement for the other eye. And then you'll see one eye being like, ah, and the other eye, wah. So I need to make sure that I stop and I go in a different part of the painting where I feel there's weakness that needs to be propped up. Okay, so this is so good. I'm so happy. Okay, I'm going to make a stop right now, and I am going to take a picture, upload it. I'm going to stop the recording. So we have this as a webinar, and then at 1:15, I'll just open or reconvene, open the session again with no recording whatsoever. Please upload the images so we can talk about it and exchange, and it'd be nice to have a conversation, and I'm curious to find out how you feel about it, where you're at, if you want to share, and yeah, we'll take it from there. So 1:15, I'm stopping the recording right now. Thanks so much for painting this, and we'll reconvene in 10 minutes.